Y'all, tonight in Richard in the Kitchen, I'm making up a barbecue brisket and smoked sausage pot pie. If you're like me, I grew up eating pot pies, chicken pot pies, beef pot pies, and a lot of times, I hadn't had one in a long time, but I thought, I made a beef brisket the other day and some smoked sausage, and sometimes you get tired of eating barbecue sandwiches, so rather than throw it out, I was wondering what can I do to kind of save it and come up with something different so it's not the same old thing all the time. So I've come up with this idea of this pot pie, so let's get started on that. First thing I want to do is I want to sweat some finely diced onions, and we'll let them cook down for just a little bit. Hit them with a little salt. That'll help draw that moisture out of those onions. It'll take several minutes to do that. While we're waiting on our onions to cook down, we'll take this brisket, it's cold, that I did in the slow cooker the other night. You can check out that video. It's really cool. I did this in a slow cooker, and you can see, look at that smoke ring I got. I'll explain how to do that in the slow cooker, but basically you just cut these up into little chunks. And we'll also do that with our smoked sausage. I'm just going to kind of cube the smoked sausage up. And small pieces. You don't need, keep in mind we're doing a pot pie here, so we'll just cube those up a little bit. Now last night I made some mac and cheese pizza rolls. So I thought, since we're having pot pie, what about an inner crust? So I thought I would chop this up. It's got that mac and cheese in there. And we'll also have an inner crust in addition to the bottom crust and the top crust in our pot pie. Okay, we're waiting on our onions to cook down, and we'll also start on our roux now. How many times do you start making a roux or gravy and you have to deal with those lumps because you add the flour to your wet mixture? And you have to work to get those lumps out of there. Well, I'm going to use beef stock, and I'm going to add just a little bit to the flour mixture instead of the other way around. What I'm looking for here is a paste. And we're going to use this for our inner filling of our pot pie instead of the traditional cream of chicken that we use. Doing it this way, you pretty much get rid of the problem with lumps. You see how well that's coming together. What I'm looking for here is a thick paste that will gradually add to our pot pie mixture come time to do that. Now see there, you don't have any lumps in there. Simple ABC. Our onions are just pretty much translucent. Softened up. I'm going to add a little bit of beef stock to that and bring that to a simmer. Once your onions and that little bit of beef stock starts to simmer, I'm going to go ahead and add our cold beef brisket, our cold smoked sausage, and our cold mac and cheese, and that little bit of crust. Turn the heat off. That cold brisket's going to bring down the temperature of this, and that's what we want, because keep in mind it's already cooked, so we don't want to overcook this. We just want to kind of keep it warm before we start adding everything else to the mix. Now, next thing I want to do is start gradually adding our roux mixture. and just incorporate and fold all that into our pot pie mixture. Now, the only seasoning that I've added to this is salt, and that's just to help the onions sweat. I'm going to add just a little bit of seasonal, not too much, because keep in mind our brisket has already been seasoned when I made it the other day. Alright, let's move on to the pie crust. Now if you're a baker, feel free to make your own pie crust. I don't have time for that. So you can get this at your grocery store, Pillsbury pie crust. You just roll that thing out. It's simple to do, it's pretty inexpensive. So basically you just take your pie crust and unroll it and set it in your pan. I'm using a 10-inch Lodge cast iron skillet, and this rolls out really easy. It's real simple to do. It takes you a little bit to go ahead and form it. I like my pot pies with a bottom and a top crust, like you get in those little packages, you know, the standard pot pie little deals that you cook. Okay, now let's move on to the next thing. Now for our veggies for our pot pie, I'm using peas and carrots, frozen. Make sure you add these at the last second, right before you put it in the oven, because otherwise, especially the peas, they will turn to mush if you start cooking them too early. So make sure you do that at the last minute. Alright, let's fill our pie crust with this, guys. Just take your pot pie mixture and fill in your skillet. Spread it out. It smells so good. Go. I've got my oven preheating at 400. Take our top crust, just kind of fill that in. You may have to trim just a little bit off of it, because the bottom of this is 10 inches. So you just kind of tear that off. I guess you can make it look pretty by just kind of folding it in and taking your thumb and making some little divots in it. Now, the other thing, we'll set that aside just a second. We're going to make an egg wash. Get some egg whites. Oops. I'm going to have to get that yolk out of there. Or most of it. You ever mess up? Happens to me all the time. Try to get that egg yolk out of there, guys. That's good enough. Add a little milk. And the reason I'm doing this is that's going to help give us that nice golden crust on our pie crust. And we'll just kind of baste this on top, give it a sheen when it comes out of the oven. Man, this is going to be so good. Alright guys, let's get this in the oven, 400 degrees, until it turns golden brown. We'll be ready to eat. And here you go, guys. Barbecue brisket, smoked sausage, pot pie. Just come out of the oven, it's golden brown. Let's give it a second to cool. We'll bite into this and give it a taste test. There you have it. Barbecue brisket, smoked sausage, pot pie. Little veggies in there so I don't feel so guilty. Let's give this a taste test. I love the crust of a pot pie. Guys, this is easy to do. very little ingredients. It's cheap, and you don't have to throw out your leftovers. And you don't get bored with eating the leftover barbecue sandwiches and things like that. Give this a try. I hope you like it. Until next time, be nice to everybody, guys. Bye-bye.